about the recordings of your albums and how?
Well, when I came to LA, which was 1974, the devotees some devotees recognized that I had a nice voice, so they wanted to record me. So the first recordings were made there. They recorded a live kirtan of me, Agnideva live in Dwarka, which was a Sunday feast kirtan. That was quite popular. Over the years, I still meet many devotees who said they were nourished by that recording on Sankirtan. Then I made I think they sent me into a recording studio to record a single 45 record. I sang Gopinath on it. Then I think the next recording that came out for me was Bhakti Rasa. Bhakti Rasa was a series of live recordings that were made while there was one of my godbrothers, Caru Prabhu. He's now in Utah, but at that time he was in LA, and he had put together a program called SACE, which stood for South Asian Cultural Exhibition. And he took it around to all the universities in Southern California. And they actually paid him to come and set up this cultural exhibit. And he approached me, and he wanted to add transcendental sound. So we put together a band, a little bhajan band with devotees from LA. And we would go on, he'd have a stage and we would chant, sing. He would also have an Indian Kathak dancer who was like the best at the time. And so there was the Kathak dancing, and then our bhajan band chanting, and it was nice. So they took recordings from those performances and they released it as Bhakti Rasa. Then let's see, after Prabhupada left, I did a recording called A Tribute to Prabhupada. This is all cassettes. This is the days of cassettes. So that I recorded at the home of one devotee from Argentina. He was a very nice man, and he was a professional artist. But he would come to the temple with his wife, and they invited us to come to their home one night for prasadam. I remember it was Ekadashi, and we ate. He fed us sumptuously, and then we sat down to do bhajans, and the result was a tribute to Prabhupada. It was very nice. It was like really, really nice. It was like my favorite of recordings. And after that, I did a recording in the temple in Laguna Beach called A Treasure of the Holy Name. Of course, I did these two recordings, Tribute to Prabhupada and Treasure of the Holy Name. Bada was he came to Laguna while I was president, and I made him vice president. And then we chant a lot together. He was the best harmonium player you could ever ask for. He was so good, still is so good. And so we made Treasure of the Holy Name, which was a compilation of different Hare Krishna melodies, which was another successful thing, distributed. Then later, when I was in Oregon, just before coming back to California, one devotee who owns Mandal Media, he came and wanted to record me. So he flew me down to California, and we made in one day we recorded enough songs to make 3 CDs. We did this in one day, because I like singing the bhajans. And he then embellished the recordings, because when we did them, it was just myself playing kartals, one devotee playing harmonium, and another devotee playing mridanga. And then he added on, after I left, he added a chorus, and then he added so many other instruments, sitar, many instruments, and the result was, and he released 3 CDs. So he staggered them, like every year and a half. He would release the second one, then the third one. And they were called, the first one was called Smaranam, second one was called Kirtan, and the third one was called The Yoga of Sound. So they're still available. He took care of distribution and everything. I really wasn't involved in that aspect of the business at all. I just sang and it went out. And I was happy just to do it, just so that devotees would get to. And over the years, many devotees have told me that these recordings would really help them. Traveling devotees, or just devotees all around the world were listening to them. But they never saw me, they never met me. Never knew what I looked like. But now, at this stage of my life, when I'm traveling, I think Prabhupada is bringing me out. I'm going around to all the temples around the world, and everywhere I go, devotees have been listening to me for 30 years, 40 years, and I wasn't conscious of that. So it's nice to go around and travel and chant. This is what I like doing, this is what I do best, is to chant. And that's my life, as it is. And I'll keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. But it's wonderful. All right? With Prabhupada, I had just a few interactions with Prabhupada that were memorable for me. I didn't have much physical association, but when once he came to New York, and all the devotees went to the airport to meet Prabhupada, to greet him, and that was a festival in itself. To greet Prabhupada at the airport was always a wonderful experience. So I had been once before, and then the second time he was coming, and the temple president requested me to stay back and not go to the airport, because they needed someone to stay back and guard the temple, the deities, because the neighborhood we were living in, the temple was in, we would get trouble from the neighbors, and he didn't trust to leave the temple unguarded. So he requested me to stay back, and of course I was horrified at not being able to go and greet Prabhupada at the airport. But I surrendered and I stayed back, and anyway, Prabhupada's car, the car that Prabhupada was traveling in from the airport, arrived at the temple like 10 minutes before the other cars with all the devotees. So when he came, I was in the temple room and he came in alone. And I was, I was like stunned at his appearance, And then after taking darshan, he sat on the Vyasa-san. And then the temple president and the vice president and a couple of sannyasis who traveled, who came, either traveling with Prabhupada or what, they all came out and they proceeded to do Guru Puja. Somebody was washing Prabhupada's feet, and somebody was drying his feet, somebody was doing arti, somebody put a garland and was fanning Prabhupada. So as they begin this process, this worship of Prabhupada, I was just standing there in awe of Prabhupada. And the president turned around and said to me, "Chant." So I grabbed the mridanga and I began to sing Sri Guru Charana Padma. And my eyes was fixed on Prabhupada as I was singing it. And Prabhupada began to respond. So I was leading and he was responding. And I'll never forget that because it was really it was really a treat. It was really special to sing Sri Guru Charana Padma and I could actually hear him responding, because the other devotees, the president, they were absorbed in what they were doing, washing his feet and everything. And I don't think they were chanting so much. But I could hear Prabhupada watching him. So that was a real treat. And when we got to the end of the song, Haha Prabhu Koradoya, at that time all the cars with the other devotees who were at the airport, they were screeching and doors were banging and they came rushing into the temple room just to the end of the song. And they joined in and we had a huge kirtan, So that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And another time, after I had moved to LA, Prabhupada came, and this time the president in LA told me, "You were going to lead the kirtan when Prabhupada at the airport to greet Prabhupada." So of course we all went, and as I said, it's like a festival. So we had devotees would come there with all the instruments, and they had a basket of flower petals. And at the sight of Prabhupada, comes through, everyone would just be our life. We were lifted by seeing Prabhupada after a year's time, And they would spread the path for him to walk all the way to the curb with flower petals, which would, maybe some of the airport workers thought we were littering the airport, but it was flower petals. And Prabhupada was walking on there. All this was before 9/11, when the airports weren't so restrictive as they are now. So we could go all the way up to the gate when he comes through. And, so he came through that time, and I remember thinking before he came through the gate, I was thinking, what melody I should chant, Hare Krishna, and because I wanted to please him. Hare Krishna. So he said, anyway, so I was thinking what will I sing to please Prabhupada? And so I didn't know. I was racking my brain trying to think. I didn't know if there was a favorite tune that Prabhupada liked, or melody. We knew a few tunes, a few melodies that everyone was singing in the movement, But then I didn't know what was. I wanted to please Prabhupada. That was my thinking. Do something that he would like. But I didn't know what was his favorite melody. everyone, we have melodies that we like more than others. So I thought there's probably no exception to that. There must be something that he likes. But I didn't know. And then I remembered I was told once by one of my godbrothers that one of the melodies we were singing was a favorite of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. How they got this information, I do not know. But I had no reason to doubt it. So I thought, oh, well, if it was a favorite of Bhaktisiddhanta, then Prabhupada would like that. Because, it's his guru. So I decided I would sing that melody. This was my thinking, this was my thoughts before he came through the door. And when he came through the door, I started singing his pranam mantras, And then I went into Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Panchatattva mantra. And by that time he passed me, and all the devotees got behind him. And we were all going out, to go to the curb, going through the airport with kirtan, to the amazement of all the people in the airport. This is Los Angeles airport, big airport. So as he passed me, I was just finishing. The devotees were responding to the Panchatattva mantra. And I got behind Prabhupada, just a few feet, maybe 4 feet, 5 feet behind him. And then I went into the Hare Krishna mantra, to that tune, which I was told is a favorite of Bhaktisiddhanta. And as soon as I sang maybe the first half of the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
How does it go, that melody?
That melody goes, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This was a melody that we sang a lot in the early days. Maybe, I don't know how, some devotee told me. So I thought, I'll sing that. And as soon as I sang the first half of it, Prabhupada stopped. He's walking in front of me, and he turned around with his cane, and he looked at me and gave me a big smile, and just shook his head in a way to say, come on. And that moment really sent me. That moment lifted me, and many devotees who were there at the time saw it. It's just a moment. And he stopped and turned and smiled and shook his head and said, come on. I remember one devotee, Dhanavir Prabhu, he was there. There were many sannyasis, because whenever Prabhupada would come to a temple, sannyasis would just fly in from wherever they were to be there. Devotees would drive from 6 hours, 10 hours away. Prabhupada's going to be there. He'd come there. It was going to be ecstasy. So they were all up in the air, dandas flying in the air, jumping when Prabhupada did that. And Dhanavir Prabhu ran up to me and he said, did you see that? And I said, of course I saw it. Because it was something he directed to me, I knew it, because it happened just as I started singing that melody. There was no doubt in my mind that he just acknowledged that this was good. So, that's it. Haribo. Hari Bol.